Stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
John, present. Carl, here. Helen, here. Norbert, present. Kelly, all present.
All present. Okay. Public comments. At this time, we would open up the meeting to anybody in the public who would like to address the board. Anything that you have? Yes, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Roger Nye. I live in Norton Shores. I just come up here on behalf of Occupy Muskegon, a civic and protest movement based in Muskegon, to give you a heads up on a few things that are going on at the county level. There's a saying that's often attributed to Mark Twain that no man's life, liberty, or property are safe while the legislature is in session. Now, what made me think of this saying was the fact that the county government has been pulling some awfully strange things lately. We had a lovely meeting, found out that we're going to have another meeting on the subject of oil and gas leaks in this part of town. Now, what they want to do, it appears, or what some of them want to do, is to allow hydraulic fracturing for oil and gas in the wastewater treatment area, the landfill area. Now, we as a movement have not taken any official position on fracking, as it's called, hydraulic fracturing. I don't think any of us is very happy about the idea ourselves. But it's your water, basically. A single fracking well that goes wrong can contaminate billions of gallons of water. If you're irrigating your fields in the summer, you don't want to be doing with lighter fluid. You need clean water on purpose. So we view fracking as a threat to the environment, something that has to be taken very seriously, and something you should all know about. It's going to happen anywhere near you. In this particular, what I'm really concerned with at this point is the process by which the county works. We simply happened to learn about this oil and gas leasing meeting because we had attended another meeting, and it was briefly discussed, and a special meeting was set up, which we passed upon, found out where one was going to be, and then they rescheduled it, and they rescheduled it, and they rescheduled it, a total of 5 times actually. Different times, different places. They finally announced it 18 hours before it was going to be held. And they didn't say what it was going to be about. They just said it was going to be a special meeting. Well, we got there with about 20 people. There was a committee meeting going on just before this presentation, and we asked for an opportunity to speak. They told us we could speak on anything except fracking. So
That's pretty convenient.
yeah, we got pretty unhappy about that, and a few of our members got a little bit loud in their disappointment with this apparent violation of the Michigan Open Meetings Act. No public comment to be permitted on the fracking issue. So they called the sheriff to shut us up. Okay, so the presentation was given by a young man from the Department of Environmental Quality from the state to tell what fracking was all about. And we stayed for that. We were not given a chance to comment. We were given a chance to ask questions afterwards. But that's as far as it goes. And just want to let you know that there are things going on that, I doubt that any of you was invited to this meeting, by the way. I hope I'm wrong, but I think you're entitled to know. I mean, it's not going to affect my water in Northern Shores, I get city water. It could affect your water if they have this, and we feel that you should know about it and keep a close eye on the county. Thank you very much.
Could I have your name
My
again?
name is Roger Nye, it's N-Y-E, and my address is 1495 Westwood Circle, Northern Shores, 49441. Thank you.
What was the name of your group again?
Occupy Muskegon.
All right.
Okay, thank you.
Speak.
Anybody have any questions or comments or?
I'd like to speak up to the same issue, actually. I have a report here that I would recommend people read. It's called "The Case for a Ban on Gas Fracking." I tried to get this to the county commissioners, someone took it, someone didn't. It's by Food and Water Watch. You can go to foodandwaterwatch.org and find that. I'd also like to recommend a film directed by a fellow by the name of Josh Fox called Gasland. And if you want some pretty in-depth case studies of the type of things that can go wrong, and you want to see it right on film, if you want to see a guy light his tap water on fire, you can see that. You want to see people who have had problems out in the western United States with fracking wells and having their livestock suddenly catch up and die off. You can see that. You can see a bunch of different studies about what things have happened, but I'm going to read you just a couple paragraphs here out of this report. The promise of natural gas has been a nightmare for the neighbors of fracking gas wells. Hydraulic fracturing injects a mixture of water, sand, and chemicals underground under high pressure to crack dense rock formations, shale-type sandstone or coal beds, and release natural gas. Now, fracking's been around for decades, but the techniques and technologies and chemicals that they use to reach these new remote gas reserves are more intensive and riskier than those used on conventional gas wells. Now, drilling accidents can and do occur, spilling the often dangerous chemical slurry into waterways. The natural gas and chemicals can migrate from wells into aquifers and pollute the water table. Fracking may also release enough of the greenhouse gas methane during extraction to counterbalance lowered carbon dioxide emissions from burning the natural gas. Now, over the past 18 months, at least 10 studies by scientists, Congress, investigative journalists, and public interest groups have documented environmental problems with fracking. The New York Times reported high levels of radioactivity and toxics in wastewater from fracking, and the inability of most wastewater treatment plants to address these contaminants. The Associated Press found that Pennsylvania had failed to account for 1/5 of its fracking wastewater, and that treatment plants struggled to remove contaminants that pose cancer risks along with long-term exposure. The U.S. House Energy and Commerce Committee, the Environmental Working Group, and the Endocrine Disruption Exchange found toxins in fracking fluids. A Duke University study published by the National Academy of Sciences demonstrates that methane levels in shallow drinking water wells were 17 times higher near active gas drilling areas than in inactive areas. Other reports demonstrated the potentially high levels of greenhouse gas emissions from frack gas wells, a large number of daycare, school, and hospitals near gas wells in Pennsylvania, and lobbying efforts, which are unceasing, by oil and gas industry to prevent stronger federal regulatory oversight of fracking. There have been a number of case studies and reviews of the environmental impacts. And the neighbors of fracking have experienced these risks firsthand. In 2009, fracking fluids so polluted the water wells in Dimmock, Pennsylvania, that some families can no longer drink from their taps. An Ohio house exploded after a frack gas well leaked large volumes of methane into the home's water supply. Texas neighborhoods near frack gas wells have reported high levels of airborne neurotoxins and the carcinogen benzene. Citizens, scientists, local businessmen, healthcare professionals, government officials, and ex-industry executives are standing up to stop fracking. In April 2011, a record 30,000 public comments were submitted to the Delaware River Basin Commission opposing fracking in that river basin. And in spring 2011, thousands of people rallied against fracking. And even Secretary of the Interior, Kenneth Salazar, noted at a 2011 hearing had problems with fracking were the Achilles heel that could essentially kill natural gas. And so the contention of this report is that this type of drilling poses unacceptable risks to the American public and is ultimately a misguided energy policy direction for the United States. And also I should mention there are roughly a dozen local and county governments in Michigan, as well as a growing number of dozens nationwide that have adopted resolutions or are in the process of adopting resolutions to ban gas fracking in their jurisdictions. So essentially my father said the rest on this particular issue. That's basically all I have to say. Thank you very much. And this is the case for ban on gas fracking that can be found at foodandwaterwatch.org. Thank you very much.
What's your name?
My name is David Nye, also I'm North Shores. Sure, I can do that. So I only have the one at this time. Printing costs, printed out a bunch of copies and gone to commissioners and whatnot.
We get it on the website.
This time the kitty's kind of empty, but yeah, it's on the website, foodandwaterwatch.org.
Thank you. Richard?
I'd like to ask the gentleman what year that was published, that particular paper.
That particular paper, I believe, is 2011.
And how far back do they go on research?
The research, I believe it's mostly focused on the past decade.
Okay, and who financed or who puts out this again? Set it pretty fast.
It's Food and Water Watch.
Who were they financed by?
I'm not immediately familiar with that information. What I can tell you is that this practice was specifically exempted. This was engineered. Halliburton was the main corporation that did the R&D on this technique. And towards the beginning of the Bush administration, the EPA, I think it was in 2001 rather. It was on or about, in or about 2001, specifically exempted this practice from regulation under the Clean Drinking Water Act. So the EPA essentially has no say. They've had their hands tied for the past decade. And the amount of lobbying and propaganda efforts by the oil and gas industry have been staggering. Specifically trying to discredit any attempt to go after fracking and anybody who tries to do so. Now, there are reasons for this that are rather complex and I can't get into. But it's a national, their perspective is that number one, it's a profit center, and number two, it's a national security issue. The question is this the right way to go about ensuring that the country's energy secure? So I'll leave it at that.
Yes, sir.
Matt Crean, we're talking about the county jail. Approximately a dozen or so years ago.
Excuse me, could you spell your last name?
CREHAN. The county decided for whatever reasons we needed a new jail. And they, at that time, they had approximately 250 beds. They went ahead and put a millage on the ballot. I think it was 1 or 2 mills. And myself and a small handful of people defeated it. We didn't think the county needed a new jail then. We don't think the county needs a new jail now. Since we defeated it, they went ahead and somehow mystically, magically converted the basement of the county building into additional jail space. So now we have about 400 beds. Now the population of Muskegon County has been pretty steady over the last decade or two. For some of the commissioners, one of them right now has indicated that they're going to try to sneak the bond process by the referendum. So if they do it in such a certain fashion, it won't even be subject to referendum. So they'll just go ahead and bond for it, and we won't even be able to go ahead and put it on the ballot ourselves in hopes of defeating it. So we definitely have our work cut out for us because they're not responsive and receptive to the people. One of the problems with the jail is that they have 65% of the people in there awaiting trial, and if you're not in there for a serious crime, you shouldn't be awaiting trial in jail. You should be a low enough bond to be released. Actually, actually found somebody on the sheriff's website the other day that's in jail for possession of marijuana. And she's about, I'll say mid-20s. She looks about as innocent as can be. And she's got $8,000 bond hanging over her head. And obviously she can't post it, that's why she's sitting there. So I want the jail for people who need it, people who need to be locked up. And I don't have any objection to that. But for just to go ahead and build more beds, all the judges have said that we'll fill them up. Well, when we get 500, that's not going to be enough. Then they're going to say we need 6. And it's going to go to 7. And it's going to go to 8. It's going to go on and on and on. You watch what happened in Kent County. They're building an addition right now. And I just don't see the crime out there. And I don't want somebody in jail for, say, not having a driver's license, or not being able to pay child support, or something that's not a threat to any of us. The only people who belong in there are clear and present danger to the community and want them locked up, and they are being locked up. With all these minor little things where they can't afford to pay a fine, so they get their driver's license suspended, then they get it goes out kind of like a snowball effect, and they wind up in the county jail. We've got about 5 or 6 of those people sitting there right now. So that's where we need your help, is start putting pressure on the county commission and say, look, we don't need this in the jail at all. It's not going to benefit us. It certainly isn't going to benefit people out here. You know what the crime rate is out here. Yeah, guess to say it's probably slim enough. Thank you for
What
that.
kind of time frame are they looking at? Any idea?
They'd like to get this thing finalized by the end of September. They're working on it pretty much where by the end of September. They want to get some things to where, okay, we're done with our process now. We've had our consultant that we paid $75,000+ for. So now let's get this thing, let's get this thing rolling. So they definitely got it up front burner.
You know what the projected cost is?
At least $30 million.
30 million?
At least that, 30 to 40 million.
Why don't they use the old prison that's sitting empty?
They could use that.
Yeah, they should, it's
They
already
could.
there.
There's a lot of options for them. They're not thinking of the options. They're thinking of, there's some things that they're not telling the public.
Is it going to increase the operating cost to everybody in the county then?
Sure, they're going to have to,
You know how much?
the Department of Corrections says for each so many inmates, you have to have a guard. So if you have another 100 inmates, you're going to have to hire that many more guards. So that's a given right there. And those, the guards cost, their salaries now are about just under $50,000 a year, not including the benefits. So let's say a guard costs us $75,000 a year. Well, let's say you have to have 10 more guards. That's $750,000 a year right there. You're paying to guard somebody that's in there for open receptacle. There's 2 of them in there right now. So it's, they're not putting people in jail. They are putting people where they need to be. But they're also putting a lot more in there to fill them in. And the judges I've talked to one-on-one have all told me, if you build that jail, if it's 500 beds, I'm going to fill it up. So regardless of what the number is, all the judges are going to fill it up. They're not going to look at it from the point of, okay, we've got extra beds, I don't need to put somebody in there, I'm not putting them in there. They're going to put them in there. The jail, the beds there, the police are going to arrest them, the prosecutors are going to prosecute them. Regardless of what's going on.
Isn't there a correctional facility down in Muskegon that's empty now, that they're not using?
Yeah.
I mean, there's one that is and one that isn't, is that?
There's one that is and one that is. There's 3 of them in Muskegon. And right now, there's one that's empty, and they're going to take that one, they're going to put prisoners from another one into that one. So they'll have one empty when they get done with all this. And that, to me, if they have to have some type of space increase, which I don't think they do, that would make the most sense. But these people don't do things according to what makes the most sense. And they have a little bit, not all, there are some good county commissioners out there. But there are some good county commissioners out there. But a lot of them just have blinders on, and they got this idea that, okay, the present county jail is a disaster. That's not a nice looking facility. Well, if we didn't fix the roof on your township hall, didn't paint it, didn't keep it clean, didn't take care of the floor, it's going to look like a dump in a few years. It's just a question of maintenance. And you can't let the maintenance you can't keep neglecting it, ignoring it. When the electrical has to be updated, they don't do that. When the plumbing needs to be fixed, that's a disaster. Well, fix it then. Nobody thinks you can just build a building and let it sit there for 50 or 60 years and not do any maintenance to it. But that's all by design, because by them neglecting it, they can now say, hey, look, this place is in terrible shape. So since it's in terrible shape, we have to have it. Gee, I wonder how that happened. It's just by neglecting this management. When somebody does that, you can't get them in the building because they're going to do the same thing with that. kind of like giving your 14-year-old the keys to the car and the whiskey cabinet.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Anybody else?
Yeah, I'll go if we're done. I mean, if
I'm all set.
everybody else, okay. Alan Boyer, County Commissioner for District 2. First off, on the oil field thing, I worked in the oil field for 10 years, so I'm very clear out west, so everybody understands. My brother is still the superintendent on Jonery in Pennsylvania where they're doing all this fracking, so they would be like different on some of this, but it was an informational meeting that we had, and the chairman of that board decided that they were going to allow any speakers. It wasn't me. I think they probably should have got to speak, but they decided they had 100 people there and they didn't want to waste the time like that, so that was something, you know, whatever. And I would like to say that this is legal already in Michigan. So if you're going, we were looking into leasing the land at wastewater. It is not leased for oil drilling, and they wanted to come talk about fracking. Well, you could actually, any farmer that's all the way around wastewater, or anybody else that owns land, could actually have a rig come in and frack anyway. It's not really all the time. I don't know that anybody's trying to stop the county or anything else. We don't even know where we stepped. It was an informational meeting. So I don't even know what to tell you, really. We didn't learn anything, or didn't learn, not learn anything, or anything, to tell you the truth. Okay, on the prison part. Now, first off, I have always advocated, and they do know this part, that we're gonna go for a vote. I ain't going for nothing, we don't go for a vote. The people are gonna choose. But I got a feeling it might be 1 against 10, so they may not do very good that way. I don't think it's gonna work. I think to be able to vote for $50 million. I would think a 30 is very, very low. It's probably only the exact same amount of people we have now. I don't see it. But I'm not on committee for the jail, so they're doing this to other ones. I did appoint a person to be on the committee, but they've only, the citizens committee, but they've only met once. I think they met once, and then the other time they tried to meet it, they forgot to post it, so no one showed up. So they really have no input. It's what these commissioners want to do is going to happen. And another thing is, they think they can do it without a vote of people and just do this. But you ain't going to put 200 more people in down there. We just signed $1 million contract per year for doctors for 400 people. That sounds like $1.5 million, 600 people. So I don't believe that. We're down to 3 maintenance workers for the whole county now. So we don't work on that building at all. It's almost deliberate to stop working on it. We've done this quite a few years ago to let it deteriorate. It's easier just to buy a new building, which I think is completely crazy. The bad thing about borrowing $50 million is the county right now is $159 million in debt for the sewer lines and all the buildings we have and whatever else. We're $109 million in behind in back friend benefits for interns and retirement plans. And this would add another $50 million to it. So maybe not as good of an idea. We should be thinking about where we're at here. And the BC Cow plant, we owe $850,000 to right now because they just won that case in court to cut, that they've been way overpaying on their taxes for the last 5 years. And it's going to take $500,000 of our budget every year from now on out. And the city of Muskegon losing more, Reese Parker loses like the main. So this is a lot of money. And Lebanon was here, and someone else came over here and said almost a guaranteed 7% cut across every federal program starting in January. And we run on federal money, so you guys know, but we do. The prison, just so everybody knows. The prison when Graham Home had it was all for shutting prisons down and turning them over to counties. But no one ever thought about was that Snyder was coming in and Graham Home was going out. Snyder's all about having prisons. So he has stopped it and they're opening the prison back up. I think they've already hired staff to put prisoners back in it, so it's not for sale anymore, it's not gonna happen, so that's just a flat out. It was just we spent, I think, $50,000 on a study for Graham Home and then lost that. So that ain't gonna happen. I think other than that, I mean, other than that, so that's kind of where we are in the jail. Like I say, I'm not in a committee, I'm not really, they know how I stand. I don't think I'm privileged to very much information. So,
You take a $30 to $50 million project, how come, isn't there some legality or legalization says that at a certain threshold that you have to put it out to the vote of the people?
I think that a group like this right here, as soon as we pass it, because I think it goes, they need to get a court order to stop it, so they can get signatures to put it up for a vote.
You'd have to petition, just like you
Right.
petition for the sewer project. People would have to petition against it in a sufficient number to put it to a referendum. Then it would go on a ballot and everyone in the county would have an opportunity
So
to
they can stop it.
vote.
But you can't stop it before they do.
Well, here's what's gonna happen. We all have to know, this is exactly what's gonna happen. They're gonna pass this through, they have not got the money to operate it. There's no way. So what they wanna do is come after an operational millage. You can see the writing on the wall, among everything, because they're gonna take the cops away. You only got 10 cops left on the road, you take the Marine Patrol, all that stuff is not mandated. So they just take it all away. Well, what are you gonna do now? You got the new jail, and they're gonna say, well, let's come after a millage to put our police back on the street. It's a roundabout way of getting a new jail. That's what my personal, I went to Liberty Township, this is exactly what they're gonna do. They have not got the money to put 200 more beds in. They don't have the money to do this.
I guess what I don't understand is how can they sell bonds for however many million it is, when they're already millions in debt? Who's gonna buy these bonds? I mean, it's like somebody that's foreclosed saying, okay, I want you to lend me some more money. I mean, they don't have any money. How are they gonna pay off bonds? How can they sell bonds? It just doesn't make any sense to me at all.
Look at
That's the way this, yeah.
I mean,
They use estimates, a certain number of dollars come in for each bed that's occupied for each day. And, you know, the prisoners pay for part of it,